Well, today is May 30th, and because it's such a windy day, I figured I'd come out lakeside and work on erosion control and clean up. And you can see we've had some pretty powerful winds here, and blew my paddles, my kayak paddles. And I have limbs down here too. I usually don't like to be in the woods when it's windy, but I should be okay here. But I've worked from my pathway after I go swimming. I've worked pretty much from about here, where my gardens start, that way, and both sides up that way. But I have not worked this part of the property line. And I figured that while it's windy, I can do that today. And I'm just going to take a walk to see before and after all kinds of limbs down here. See, I'd trip over that if I didn't pick that up. Branches that down over the winter. And what I'll do is I'll take all this stuff, a few branches down, and what I'll do is I'll take all this stuff and use it for erosion control here. And I started this last summer, as you might remember. And basically my idea is to stop when we get heavy rain, snow melt, that it normally erodes to the lake, because it's pretty steep here. It's more steep than it looks. And we have some rocks that help, but I like to work on it a little bit better. And I usually break this pathway through here just because I usually walk barefoot, and I like to see the little trip-onables like that. This right here, picked up from the shoreline, so I'll be composting that. What parts of it will compost. And what I do is rake the leaves and the pine needles this way, just lightly, because I want to keep some here for the rain to run past and run over and run under. And so that's my goal today, is to work along the shoreline and put all this stuff here along this bed here, and it goes to the other side of the deck up that way. And I don't have to worry about this too much. I don't rake this like I used to, just because I want to keep it more natural, and as a result the pathway to the cottage is overgrown, and if it gets too bad with scratchy legs and stuff, I'll just cut those back a little bit. As you can see, I worked a little bit on erosion control here last year, but not much, because this root right here does a world of good. And you can see that the pine needles are building up, and I'm not going to do much here. I might plug away at it when I want something to do in the summertime toward fall, but we'll see. Rain is what matters here, because it comes barreling down through here. And you can see this right here, when we first moved here back in 2005, this embankment was up here. So we've lost that much erosion control just by this area alone. And you can see I've tried to prevent it. I'm using the natural landscape here, the roots, and I'm hoping that will just, with the rocks up against it, the rocks down here and an old log here that I placed, is really working well. And there's a log in there, but I can only do so much without cutting back the bushes here, because if you kill the bushes, it kills the roots, and the roots is what's holding everything in place, so it doesn't erode nearly as fast. Even when everything dies back, the roots are still there. The roots are very, very strong. They're very rugged, and they'll do a lot of erosion control on its own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this a little bit today while it's nice and breezy. The bugs won't get me, and it's cleaning up the yard at the same time. So I'm staying active and I'm being productive. Perfect. Okay, other than placing my stacks onto this pile right here, I think I'm pretty much done for the day. The blackflies have found me and getting all through my hair, but I want to quickly show you what I've done. My erosion control method is basically the same as the hugelkultur method, which represents and goes along with Mother Nature and her ways of doing things. Is Here's a log, been here for years and years, and I put up larger stuff here, smaller stuff up there, so anything that filters down, the smaller stuff will catch it. If it goes through, then it helps to build up in here, because it will get caught up in here before it reaches here. That's the goal. And of course, every time the leaves fall, that builds up another little bit of layer, like a platform, a floor. Then I can go through and I put more of this stuff on. And as the years go by, I'll keep doing this, and there'll be a nice little hill here that will help catch and build up as the rain washes debris down. And hopefully it'll be a nice little barrier here. And excuse the blackflies, oh my god. So we have problems with rocks here, as you can see, and every 2 or 3 years I go through and I see if they wiggle. They won't. This is probably the top of a huge ass rock. So I color it, and anything that is trip-onable, I'm very, very careful. I don't want to move because it's catching debris. You see, this is building up here onto this rock, and I want that to do that. So I have to come back and spray these. This right here, that's not good, because I'll trip over that. And as the years go by, more and more roots are being exposed to the erosion, and I have an issue with that because I don't tend to watch where my feet are going, because I'm always curious about what's in front of me and around me to watch what my feet are stepping on. But there's this roots that are popping up, and those are toe catchers, and that will hurt the foot actually. So I'm gonna have to come through, and I might take this little wall here and put a log across there and start doing this method. And that will have to be something we step over for a few years in order to not hurt our feet, or step on it if you have shoes on, because that helps break it down. And it will decompose faster. It becomes soil that much faster. But as you see, I've cleaned up some of this area here, and I sorted it by the thicker stuff, the smaller stuff, and the finest stuff. And that's the order that they're going to go onto this pile right here. Is the biggest stuff first, kind of the same as my method that I use to build my long-term hugelkultur walls with, that I've showed you so many times in the past. This will go on first, these will go on second, these will go on third, these will go on fourth, and eventually they'll all break down. The goal is that to build a retainer wall here, so the erosion doesn't bring stuff down on top of this and keeps building this up, versus taking away our shoreline here as much. I leave the bushes alone, like I said earlier, because the roots do a lot of good. These right here will end up breaking down, and maybe in 3 or 4, 5, 6 years I can have some small plants here for maybe some vines and squash or whatever, and I can start planting here as well. So that will be adding more nutrients to this area and breaking it down and become a barrier by itself. And on the back side of here, I have some rocks holding up this birch, so that holds that in place so it doesn't go anywhere. Same here, I want to stop erosion coming from that direction down through here, so I have rocks. It's a lot of work, but I got to clean up the yard anyway, because I run around barefoot more than I should. The pine cones I'm going to... Now I can show you what I'm doing with the pine cones. If I'm not using them in my garden, I put them up here, and that will help catch stuff as they rot. They'll become squishy. They'll go down to nothing, start rotting, and that will start catching some debris as well. So I'll go through and stomp on a bunch of those. I already started collecting some here, and I'll just keep stomping on them every few weeks maybe to help break them down even more, and that's still going to build up bulk and let some moisture go down through, but not the debris, I hope, and that will start making soil there as well.